Today we're going to take a look at our first hand sewing stitch. This stitch is called the line stitch. I'm going to be showing you on this piece of cotton muslin fabric. If you don't have a piece of fabric that you could use, you have many options. With your parents' permission, if you have a shirt that's too small and you're ready to get rid of, you could cut that up into a piece of fabric approximately this size. It's about 8 inches by 5 inches, just as an estimate. It could be slightly larger or smaller. You absolutely, if you don't have fabric at all, you could even use a cut up piece of paper towel. That is totally fine and works really well for this. Being that we're at home, we're going to be adaptable and use the supplies that you have. So a paper towel is totally fine. I'm actually going to give you a view of that a bit later, but I want to show you how we'll set it up regardless of which materials you're using. So I'll show you here on the piece of fabric. I'm going to cut out or take out my needle here. And I'm going to prepare this fabric by giving myself some lines to follow. I'm going to put 2 lines that go horizontally across the fabric. This is the only ruler that I had. It's a tape measure, so that will have to work. You can use any straight edge that you have. So 2 lines, that one was better. Let's try this one again. 2 lines across. And once you have the horizontal lines, that'll do, you're going to make some vertical lines approximately every 1/4 inch. You don't need to necessarily measure it. Maybe you want to measure the first 1 or 2 to kind of get that spacing. Up and down like this. This is going to help make your line stitches the same size. The closer together your line stitches are, the tighter they'll be and the neater they'll be most likely. So if you want to try maybe once you get used to it going down and making them a little closer, that will always be an option. So my fabric is ready. I could do the same thing here on my piece of paper towel. I'm going to use this piece of pad of paper to kind of get my lines. That tape measure was a little tough. So across like this. And this, same thing. Give yourself those spacers. All right, so there is your prepared fabric, paper towel, whatever you're using. As promised, I'm going to show you on this one because this may be what many of you choose to use. That may be just what you have. So with my threaded needle, remember, the thread should be at least a couple inches out of the eye of the needle. The knot should be at the opposite end, and this is where it really becomes important to hold those stitches onto my fabric. All hand stitches start from the underside of the fabric, and that's so the knots are hidden. We don't want to see them. We want them to do their job on the back of the fabric. So I'm going to take my needle underneath and come up right around that first vertical line, on the line and on my first spacer. And I'm going to pull all the way until the knot is resting on the back. Don't pull too hard, it could pull through the fabric, but you want it to kind of sit there on the back. Now, with the line stitch, we have 3 words you need to remember. Those words are mountain, pinch, and pull. So that all happens with my thread and my needle here. Mountain means that I'm going to take my thread up and over my line, and that's going to get it out of my way, so there's no risk of tangling. Next up, step 2 is pinch. Pinch means that I'm going to take my needle, and my needle does the pinching, not in between my fingers. I go in, and then I go out horizontally on the top of my fabric. Notice I never poked all the way through. I poked in, okay, and then I came back out before the needle went all the way through. And then I pull. And that's your first line stitch. Let's see it again. Mountain. Thread goes up and over, just a little loop. Now I'm going to pinch at my next spacer line. In, needle comes out, pointing to the left, and pull. And you'll repeat that until you get to the end of your line. Mountain, pinch, pull. Mountain, pinch. Okay, notice what this pinch looks like. I have a little bit of the fabric with the paper towel right here on both. The needle went in here. It came out here slightly before where the last stitch ends. And then I can pull. This is what the line stitch looks like, kind of a side view if you're doing it correctly. You can make your pinches slightly smaller, as I said before, if you want your stitches to be smaller. So I'm kind of ignoring my pencil spacer lines here, making it slightly closer together. If I wanted to, and I was just getting the hang of it and I needed a little bit of help, I wanted to make them bigger. Bigger is usually a bit easier. I could go in and out. And you can see the size difference between these last two. The regular, the small, the big. I would stick to these spacer lines so you have nice, even stitches all across your line. Mountain, pinch, and pull. So you have 3 spaces where you're going to be doing the line stitch on your fabric. Right now there's 2 of them here. I will show you the third. Step number 1, you're going to practice your line stitch on the top line. Once you get to that, you're going to do line number 2. I will be posting a video that you can watch as well, a separate video, to show you what happens if you run out of thread and also if you get to the end of the line, because we need to do another kind of knot called the securing knot when you get to one of those situations. Not enough thread or here at the end. After you do these 2 and you've made those securing knots, you're going to draw a letter S, kind of like a flat letter S, a little challenge line, like a little wave. And this is going to be to practice your line stitch on making curves, as well as practice it here with no spacers. So it's kind of like taking the training wheels off, so to speak, to help you get used to what that would be like if you were going to stitch on just any fabric, which usually doesn't have these markings. So remember your mountain, pinch, pull. I'm excited for you to try your first stitch. Let me know how it goes. Can't wait to see pictures of your work.